It's October 12th, and I was just laughing because I just checked my clips and that I made earlier today, and I might be a little more nearsighted than I thought I was because I knew from the distance that I was at that it sort of looked sometimes like a hospital cap, the shirt that I used over my head. But I did not realize that basically it just looks like a shirt, like a shirt over my head. I didn't see the seams, and I couldn't see that it just looked like a shirt. Which is really horrible because I was talking about something very serious. And saying the United States will not be taken seriously unless they rectify what wrongs they've done. Which is true. But I had no idea what I really looked like earlier today. So I'm going with the old standby, you know, this sheet over my head, because it looks maybe a little bit more like a veil or head covering or something, not as much like a shirt. So anyway, I'm collecting my thoughts now. I hope that it doesn't detract that much from what I was saying, because I really meant what I was saying, and I said it in all seriousness. Anyway, so where was I? I guess I was talking about all the various individuals that I was having to live with. And I'm trying to remember if I missed something, because I think that was about as horrible as it was. I guess filling in the blanks a little bit. At the one hotel in Wenatchee, I was tortured, whether it's the tele-torture from by remotely accessing something that was already in my body, or because somebody was right next door to me. And then the other hotel I typically never had a problem with. For whatever reason, it didn't really happen at the other one. So sometimes that was confusing to me, and in trying to figure out how much of it was people who had some kind of form of black market technology or military technology who were in the same proximity, as opposed to satellite technology and being tele-tortured, basically. And some of the forms of torture that have been used against me, I have been able to pinpoint. I mean, I figured it out enough to know it can't be one thing, but possibly it could be something else. And I think that it happened maybe one time at the other hotel, the other end of Wenatchee. But if it did, it was one time only. And just wanting to slide around here. So I've gone over some of the things that were happening to my son. I mean, literally horrifying torture. And then the position that I was put in. I think I was basically last describing how the Seattle FBI apparently wanted my eggs. And I thought it was strange that I think that I had this sort of I was put into this horrible position before I met that other individual who said that he was quote-unquote bred for research. But I was really upset when excuse me. I was really upset when I had a lawyer asking me to give him $4,000 as a retainer, because that was a lot of money for a retainer on something like that. And I told him that it was very clear-cut. It was a clear-cut case. It wouldn't have been that hard, and I just felt that that exact number was, to match the same number that I was being offered, which was the only money that I was being offered. I mean, I had tried to find work for years in that area. As long as I had been there, I had made several attempts to get work. And I had even tried to do volunteer work, and people did not want me to do anything that looked productive in any way. And so then I was basically, the only offer that I was being made was to give up my genetic material so that somebody could have kids with my genes. And I think that I'm probably not the only woman, and possibly even the only man, who has been pushed into that kind of position. I don't think that every man and woman has been tortured like I have and like my son has at all. I think that there are different people that have experienced different aspects of things that I've had to go through, but probably not all of these things at once. And I felt that when I was put into that position, it really made it stand out to me. I then started to wonder about the time that somebody had wanted to do a I might need to get some water. That those doctors wanted to do a biopsy of my cervix and put me under anesthesia for it, and all of a sudden I was sort of wondering if, were they planning to extract eggs while they were there? And what happened exactly in Maryland? Did somebody take other material from me while I was under anesthesia? I don't know. And I think that it does happen. I think that people, if they're not if they don't have eggs stolen from them or genetic material sometimes taken from them without their consent, I think that some people are put into a horrible position deliberately, because if another group wants, if they're poor for some reason or disadvantaged, or they can be made disadvantaged, because I really wasn't disadvantaged to start with, they had to work at creating disadvantage for me. And for whatever reason, somebody wants another person to be disadvantaged, to then put them in this position of giving them only one option, and that's to give up eggs. It's a little bit weird, but I think that it happens. And I think that there are men too that are also put into that position where they're told, if you'll just give up some of your genetic material, you know, for different banks, then you'll be fine. You know, you'll have money to get by on your rent or whatever, because they pay men for that too. And probably there are some men and some women that are pressured into it, who never really want to do it. I felt very, I felt like it was extortion. And I actually think that, I can't remember the exact circumstances, but I believe that I did end up sleeping outside some of the time because I refused to do that. And then, as I say, I met these other individuals, or they approached me and I was living with them, and basically really forced, I was in, you know, at their mercy. And I think if Theo Keyes is telling me that the Queen of England got a hold of him and wanted him to work for her, which I actually don't necessarily doubt, as strange as that sounds, I don't think it's impossible, because the English royalty, and I think other royalty or other groups of people, they're interested in psychics, stuff like that. There's always been a tradition of having those kinds of people around them. It's goes back to seers and prophets and wise men and all of that, you know, and some of them are gifted in that way themselves, so they would be naturally curious about others who are, and more accepting and believe it more than maybe just a regular person might. And and they've always had people around that do things like that. So it's not completely out of the question that he was contacted. I mean, maybe somebody was pulling his leg and just pretended, but it's also possible that nobody was ever pretending. If that's the case, then I would tend to think that he would work for Kate Middleton or Carol Middleton, and that Michelle Erickson would also be inclined to work for them. I mean, what would compel Michelle Erickson to conceal all these horrible crimes of torture against my son?